Hello, everyone. We are once more live on LinkedIn, on YouTube, and on my podcast. Today's session, I want to talk about the 5 mega technology trends, the trends that are really transforming businesses, especially post coronavirus. What I have done, I've written a book called Tech Trends in Practice, the 25 technologies that are driving the fourth industrial revolution. And this just came out during the pandemic, but I obviously wrote this before the pandemic, and it made me reflect on on how things might have changed, and on whether some of those technology trends have become more important, less important. So what I want to do in this session is to really look at the 5 that I think have been accelerated during this pandemic, and they are technology trends that will become even more important to businesses. Um, we are live, as I said, on LinkedIn. We are live on YouTube, and we are live on my podcast. If you hear any grumbling in the background today, there's a thunderstorm happening here. So we've got thunder and lightning outside. And I also have my dog with me. She doesn't like thunder at all. So she is sitting next to me here. And normally, wouldn't be on a live stream, but if you hear my little doggy in the background, this is why. Say hello. There we go. Today's session is a little rerun of a session that I did last week at CogX. CogX is the world's largest technology event with basically we had over 70,000 speakers, 70,000 attendees and hundreds of speakers. And I was very honored. I was giving my keynote on the global leadership stage. So I was sharing the stage with people like the US Secretary of State, John Kerry, the former one, the former UK Prime Minister Tony Blair, the chairman of AstraZeneca, Leif Johansson, Sir Martin Sorrell, as well as the UN Messenger for Peace, Jane Goodall. So I was extremely pleased to do that. In that session, I talked about coronavirus technology, and I thought, actually, let's refine this even more. Let's run this as a live stream, as a live session here. So let me just have a look. We've got lots of people on the stream already. We've got Alexandra from Brazil. We've got Gilles from Holland. We've got Volkan from Turkey. Marriott from Helsinki in Finland, Bobby from Arkansas. We've got people from Chennai, from Senegal, from Albania, from Turkey, from Connecticut, from Taiwan. Hi, Daniel. Hi, Anne from France. So it's really good to see you all here. Let me know what the weather is like where you are, because here is pretty miserable at the moment. It was very humid earlier on, and now we have, as I said, thunderstorm and lightning. So the 5 technology trends that are transforming our world post coronavirus. For me, the first one is artificial intelligence, and that will be of no big surprise to any of you who know me. I have written about artificial intelligence now for so many years. I help organizations understand the impact of artificial intelligence and help them develop AI strategies. And what I feel is that AI really has helped and is going to help companies engage with their customers going forward, and is helping them to automate business processes, and in particular make sense of this big data revolution that we're experiencing at the moment. We have now more data than ever before, and what AI helps us do is to make sense of this data. And we can do things like around the coronavirus, we've used artificial intelligence and data very effectively to look at the infection and how they're spreading, to predict infection rate. rates. Hospitals have done this to understand the demand and possible capacity of ICU units, the intensive care units. We've used this to predict the reinfection rate. And obviously now we're coming, hopefully, out of lockdown and trying to reach some normality in many countries. What we need to do is we need to use this data to really understand how do our customers change, what are the trends, are they coming back, what products are they looking for, what services are they doing. And what we can now do is we can use completely new data sets. So one of my customers is a construction company now, and what they wanted to understand is, okay, how the construction in the UK here is starting off again. So they wanted to understand where are their competitors, how are they doing in terms of making progress. And in the past, this data was all manually collected. Nowadays, they're using satellite image data. So satellite images are collected all the time. They're now very granular, so you can really understand progress on building sites day in and day out. And they use artificial intelligence to automatically analyze their own progress against their competition. So for me, this is a great example of using AI to inform decision making. On a wider level, AI obviously helps us to do things like read. And there's a great AI tool called the Summarize bot that basically summarizes things for you. We have AIs that can write for us. Companies like Alibaba use it to automatically write their product descriptions on their e-commerce platform. But companies like the New York Times and the Washington Post all use it. I write for Forbes, but AIs also write for Forbes. We have AIs that can see, so we have machine vision capabilities. This is becoming increasingly important, where especially if I look at some of the companies that are doing pretty well during this pandemic. Domino's Pizza is one of those, pizza delivery company, and they now use machine vision to scan each of the pizzas that go through their oven as a quality control mechanism. So the AI will automatically assess, have the toppings being assembled in the right way, does it look good, is it burnt, and so on. And obviously in healthcare, we've been using machine vision for a long time. So we can now scan people's lungs and see the impact of coronavirus. We can use machine vision to identify whether someone has coronavirus or not. We use machine vision for temperature checks. So there are now heat cameras that use machine vision, or even helmets being used by officials to monitor whether someone might have a raised temperature, and so on. AI can also help us speak. We are used to this in our homes with Alexas and Google Home assistants. But chatbots have become really important too, especially as more people were furloughed. Companies that had chatbots in place were still able to provide an interaction with their customers. And one company, again, that did very, very well and is still doing very well during this pandemic is Lidl. They are a German supermarket, a grocery that is now spreading across the world. And they have introduced a wine recommendation robot. So it's a chatbot on Facebook Messenger, and you basically have a conversation with this saying, okay, I'm planning to have this meal. What wine would you recommend? And this is really helping Lidl to engage with their customers. So for me, this is that they are artificial intelligence and leveraging big data are my first mega trend that will help organizations still engage with customers, and it will help organizations automate some of their processes, which leads me very nicely to my next mega trend. But before we go into this, let me have a quick look on at who is on the stream here today. Erica saying, love Lidl. Yeah, me too. Ardi, hello from Indonesia. Celia from Chennai in India. Hello, everyone from Dubai. Anastasia. Ifran from the United Arab Emirates. Really good to see you. I'm actually planning a live stream just focused on the Middle East at some point soon, so watch out for that. That should be really interesting. I've got Ilona from Lithuania. I've got someone from Turkey, India. I've got David from the US. I've got someone from Syria, someone from Scotland, Momim from Istanbul, someone from Costa Rica and Zambia, New Jersey. So it's again a truly global session here. We've got someone from Boston, Massachusetts, another one from India, from Miami, from Canada. Really good to see you. Orlando, Florida. Roger from Germany, from Malaysia, from Minneapolis. So amazing. Thank you so much for joining. As always, I love these live streams, and I have some really exciting live streams coming up soon too. So over the next few weeks, I have a few live streams coming up. One next week with a panel where I talk to some data experts, including the chief data officer and chief from Levi Strauss and others. The week after, I've got a really good live stream with Microsoft on how AI is now being used in business. So there's lots of really exciting content coming up in my live streams here. Let's go to trend number 2 then. Trend number 2 is robotics, drones, and vehicle automation. So this is that they again in my book, they're all separate topics. I talk about robots and cobots. I talk about drones. I talk about self-driving cars and vehicles. But for me, they can be merged together into one mega trend. But we talk about automating our businesses, and obviously AI is a massive enabler in all of this. So the first business trend, we couldn't have self-driving cars and self-flying drones and autonomous robots without AI and machine vision and sensors that go into them and the processing of the data that they generate. So again, around coronavirus, for me, China has been using drones, for example, to monitor social distancing. Amazon is using machine vision in their warehouses to monitor social distancing. And in Singapore, they have used a Boston Dynamics robot called Spot. And this is basically a robot dog, so a 4-legged robot that basically walks and patrols the parks in Singapore. And they basically, if they spot someone, and they can do this automatically, that someone is not socially distancing or is not or adhering to some of the laws, the dog will then walk up to them, the robot dog will walk up to them and then tell them that they need to socially distance. Lots of my clients are now looking at their supply chain, especially their resilience, and they're thinking now, how if this pandemic continues, if there are new pandemics in the future, how can we take people out of some of the critical operations in our operations, and without sounding too negative, because you think, okay, we're taking people out, we are already seeing massive unemployment, this is not sounding great. But for me, if we can take people out of some of the critical processes where we don't actually need people, that will make companies more resilient in the future. And we've seen this in companies where they're now automating their trucks, their deliveries, their ships. So here where I live in the UK, we have robot deliveries. So they are small little delivery robots that deliver my grocery. They deliver my if you want to, you can have your parcels from Amazon delivered to them, and then order the robot to take it to your house whenever you're ready. Companies like UPS are now using self-driving trucks to transport cargo between Phoenix and Tucson in Arizona. Companies like Daimler Trucks, they are partnering with a truck startup, with a self-driving truck startup, to again use autonomous lorries on highways in Virginia. So all of this is happening already. We've seen this in terms of delivery drones, or Amazon, they have that they've been talking about drone deliveries for a long time. So again, if they can take the delivery person out of this equation, a Google subsidiary, for example, they're called Wing Aviation, and so they're a subsidiary of Alphabet, so that Google's parent company, and they have actually received FAA, so the Federal Aviation Administration, right to deliver in Blacksburg in Virginia, and companies like UPS are doing something similar. In China, the company called JD.com, a massive e-commerce giant there, they've been delivering with drones now for a long time. And then in terms of automation, what we're seeing, healthcare is another area where we can automate more things. So we now already have robotic surgery. Again, if we can take the surgeon out of this equation, if we can have less interaction with people, where this is not necessarily absolutely vital. So we've seen this in China and Japan, where robots were used to deliver medicine to different people. They can use the robots to ask administrative questions that maybe a nurse that is busy fighting the coronavirus shouldn't really be answering. And then there's obviously full robotic surgery. So a company called Mako, they have already performed over 300,000 hip and knee replacements, where basically they're using data from a CT scan and patient models, and then they will then use cameras that are put on the arm, again using machine vision to position, to map the procedure, and then align the implant to make sure that it sits properly. And then in transportation, I think is the other area. Lots of people are very reluctant, or would be reluctant, to get on into taxis, onto buses, onto public transport if they can avoid it. So again, companies like Waymo in California, so Waymo is another Google subsidiary, or Alphabet's subsidiary, and they've now been using self-driving cars, so completely autonomous taxi services in California. At the moment, you have to be a Google employee or someone signed up to the program to use it, because it's still in pilot stage, but it demonstrated this is actually working. And in Dubai, for example, they are now experimenting with self-flying taxi drones. So they're completely autonomous drones. They would pick you up from a landing spot, and then you're taken somewhere by drone without a pilot in it. And then we see lots of other crazy automation. So any business process now can be automated. And in Japan, for example, a 400-year-old temple now has a robotic priest. Make of this what you want. And a French nightclub now has a robotic pole dancer. So let me see your views. Let me see what's happening on the stream. Okay, so Amina saying, I'm a nurse. I would like to ask how this technology is used in hospitals, especially in operating theaters. Yeah, so in lots of different ways. So you can have assisted robotic surgery, where machine vision and AI is used to help a surgeon find the best way to operate. They can even use things like augmented reality glasses to understand the procedures. And in other areas, it can be completely automated. Let me see who is here now. We've got Phil from Houston and Texas. Really good to see you. Anibal from Portugal. I've got someone from London. I've got David from Guernsey. Alpha from Tanzania. Julia from the Ukraine. I've got Pankaj from India. I've got Anna from Liverpool and Rida from Bahrain. Really good to see you all here. And as I said, if you have any specific questions, part of the problem when I try to answer as many questions in my live streams as I can, there are so many questions and comments come in. I've got thousands of them come in, so sometimes I miss a question. So if you want to make sure, if you see my live stream being announced on my LinkedIn or Twitter, just drop a comment underneath and say, I've got this particular question that I would like to have an answer to, and then I will make absolutely sure I will answer any of those questions in my live streams. So we talked about artificial intelligence, we talked about robot automation and drones and self-driving cars as the second trend. The third one is now the as a service revolution, or the cloud revolution. What we are seeing is that we talked about robots and we talked about artificial intelligence. And sometimes for companies, this can be quite daunting, saying how can we automate, how can we develop our own robots and bring them in, how can we develop our own artificial intelligence and machine learning platforms, and so on. The good news is that we now have as a service solutions for all of them. So you can now go to companies like Microsoft and IBM and Google and others and Amazon and others to simply say, okay, I have this data, I've got these problems, can you help me use AI? And then you simply use their AI cloud platform to do things like machine vision or chatbots and anything else. The other exciting thing is that we now have the same for robots. There are a number of companies. I've recently written an article for Forbes on as a service robotics. And what this basically means is that you can simply sign up to companies and they will deliver a robot solution to you. And you simply pay as you go. So if you wanted a security robot, you can have that. If you wanted to automate something on your production line, you simply rent a robot, you rent the solution, and off you go. And then obviously cloud infrastructure gives you the scalability, and again, we've seen this during this pandemic, that those companies that had cloud-based offerings, they were able to keep running. They can scale this up or down. So if you do see demand dropping, you can simply scale it back. If you see demand going up, which a few companies have seen too, if you think about Zoom, the video conferencing platform, they've seen a huge spike in demand, and they have been able to use their cloud provider to simply scale this up and deliver their services to as many customers as wanted to use the platform. We've seen this in the same way in online retail. This has gone up. And again, if you have a cloud solution, if you have as a service platforms, you can simply scale them up and down. So nowadays we can lease robots. We can, with a click of a mouse, extend our cloud computing and the computing power and storage we have. So this will make a huge difference. And companies like as I said, Google, Amazon, Honda, they not only have some as a service solutions, but they also have robot as a service offerings. And as I said, whether this is security robots or warehouse picking robots or assembly line robots, you can simply rent those nowadays. Very good. Let's have a quick look through the live stream. We've got Baraba from Portugal, Myrim from Morocco, Chandra from India, someone from Brazil, we've got Claudia from Rio de Janeiro in Brazil. We've got someone from Mauritius, really good to see you, from Vietnam. I've got Jeffrey from the Philippines. Thank you so much for joining in. Okay, so this was my third trend, as a service and cloud. My fifth trend is now 5G. So this is the fifth generation of mobile internet. And this, like all the previous ones, if you still remember, things like 3G, that they really allowed us to have our first data services. You can browse the internet, you can send picture messages, but this was slow. Then 4G came along that allowed us to do some live streaming. It allowed us to consume mobile internet content much better. What we will now see is 5G, and this will transform things because 5G is so much faster than 4G. So we'll see a step change where suddenly your mobile phone or your tablet or your computer that you carry around can be as fast as your fiber optic lines that you have in your offices or homes, and sometimes even faster. So it means that actually we don't need to have a landline kind of internet connection in a home. Our devices can all be connected via 5G to the mobile internet. And we can stream as much films and music and videos as we want. And this is starting to change our world, where we can have so many more as a service offerings. So we talked about this as my third trend. This will be even accelerated with 5G, where you can have as a service things like entertainment platforms and gaming platforms. At the moment, we are buying gaming consoles and connect them to the internet and then play at home. In the future, you don't necessarily need this anymore because those games don't have to be downloaded to a console. You can just use a device like your mobile phone or a tablet and to run this as a service in real time. And 5G will make that possible. The other nice feature of 5G is that we can slice the network. So, for example, if you wanted to have in your city a 5G network just for the emergency services, for example, that's possible. And this would then, so if we sometimes see this around sports events where, or big concerts where lots of people are trying to send messages and make FaceTime calls and others, that then the network capacity drops on 4G and we simply can't do this. With 5G, this won't be the case. So we can connect millions of devices and we can slice and dice the network to make sure certain services will always have a stable internet connection. And there are some really exciting areas. So one of the use cases I talked about comes from Norway. So a fishery, they are called Cermaq, and they are a global, a really big fish farming company. And they basically use certain technology to monitor their fish farms. And what happens in the past is that they use an underwater fiber cable from the land to the fisheries that are out in the fjord or in the sea, and they can monitor what is going on. This is obviously a big investment. It's very hard to maintain. What they're now doing is they're piloting 5G. So they're one of the companies that are already doing this. And with 5G, they could get rid of the fiber optic cables and they can now monitor their fisheries in real time. And one of the coolest ways they're now using the technology is that they now have face recognition for fish. So in their salmon fishing, they can now spot fish. Fish is basically based on their patterns on their skin and the shape of their mouth and other things. And they can now monitor a specific fish. They can monitor the health of fish, and they can even feed them specifically. So at the moment, in old-fashioned feeding, you simply dump all the food into the fish farm, and then all the fish fight for the food. In the future, and the downside of this is that you get some fish that eat lots of food because they're very strong, and some fish might not grow very well because they can't fight for the food. In the future, you could have a dispenser that recognizes a particular fish, saying this fish has not eaten today, and therefore you then dispense the pellet that feeds them. So it will automate a lot of their processes. It will streamline this. And I see massive applications in industry, obviously, but also in farming. If you think about, there's very similar ways where you have connected combine harvesters, you can monitor crops, and companies like the agriculture giant Cargill, they are already using this, and they've used similar technology that I was describing about the salmon now with cows on farm. So the connected farm will be enabled with 5G too. So hopefully there were some interesting use cases that spark some thoughts in your head. Let me just have another quick look through my stream. I've got Othman from Paris. I've got Anastasios from Greece. I've got Laurel. Sorry, some of them disappear very quickly. From Wyoming, really good to see you, Laurel. I have Michael from Sweden. Ollie from Finland, good to see you, Ollie. You've been on quite a few of my streams. Really good to see you again. So Kevin is asking, how will 5G improve the other trends discussed? Absolutely. So 5G is very closely connected to AI, connected to robotics, and as a service. So all of these trends are all interacting with each other. This is why I picked those as my top five, because what 5G will allow us to do is you can then automate AI and things like the intelligence of face recognition in cameras, this face recognition for cows and fish and whatever you're using on farms. Robots again. So if you have the spot robot patrolling the city in Singapore, 5G will make the connectivity much better, the data transfer much better. And then obviously this will mean we have more as a service offerings, and you can send data to the cloud to be processed much faster too. So hugely connected to all the other trends. And hugely connected to my last trend, which is my fifth technology trend, is extended reality. And this includes augmented reality, virtual reality, and everything in between, mixed reality. And what we are seeing that again, this is being pushed, and 5G will make this, enable this. So if you think you can simply have virtual reality or augmented reality glasses with you in the future, and they are connected via 5G, and they will give you much faster response times with things like Google Glass. In the past, they had to rely on 4G technology, and that didn't really work that well. Nowadays, we then have more processing power on board, and we can rely on the cloud via 5G to make virtual reality and augmented reality a reality everywhere, wherever you go. So again, what we're seeing is as shops are not open, and consumers are reluctant to walk into busy retail stores, the ones that have virtual reality have been able to sustain the pandemic much better. So if you think about, if you are an optician, for example, and you rely on people to come into your shop to have an eye test, and then have your glasses fitted, and they make some recommendations. All of this can now be done online via virtual reality and augmented reality. There's now a tool that is able to perform an eye test in virtual reality, which is pretty epic. You could then get your results, and then you could hop onto an augmented reality platform where you basically go to a website, or you use your mobile phone to try on new glasses. So it uses the camera in your tablet, in your computer, or in your phone to take an image of your face in real time, so you can, and then you can try glasses on. And these systems, again, combining this with other trends like like artificial intelligence, they can now recommend the perfect glasses for the shape that your face is and the shape of your head. So this whole try before you buy is going to become big online in virtual and augmented reality, especially as all of the new handsets, so all the new mobile phones. If you think about what Apple is working on, what Samsung are working on, what Google is working on, and so on, they are all putting augmented reality as a main feature. So they have all created their own platforms, and this means that consumers can now do things like try on makeup virtually, a bit like a Snapchat filter, but you try different shades of makeups, you try different styles, you can try different haircuts and what they might look on you. A company I've written about quite a lot is 10 Streets Head, hats, and basically what this is a New York based company that sells hats, and what they do is they offer virtual try on. So you can go to their website and you simply try on different hats. We've seen this now in watch retailing, where you can try out different models, or jewelry you can try out and see what it actually looks like in real scale on your finger, on your wrist. So this for me is going to be big. And then anything else. So we can, if you think about this, we now have companies like IKEA that allow you to place furniture into your room virtually. So you can use your smartphone, you simply video your room and you say, I want to place the sofa in here. What would this actually look like in reality? And these things are developing so fast that this will be an amazing technology very soon. Companies like Dulux, the paint manufacturer, they allow you now to look, basically try out different colors of wall paint in your house. So and for me, there would be a big impact on education as well. So having virtual and augmented reality will change how pupils learn. If you think suddenly you can put virtual reality goggles on and experience the world through the eyes of someone that lived 100 years ago, so you can actually walk through ancient Greece or through ancient Rome. You can see what a place that you lived at the moment, what how this has changed over the years. Um, in we see this in design as well. So someone designing an interior for your house, or even the designing a completely new building, you can then put your virtual reality goggles on and walk around the building to see, does it actually work for you? What does it feel like? How much sunlight do you get, and so on. You can experiment with moving windows around and moving furniture around to really see, experience things before they are built or before you buy them. Um, and in education, I think this will make a big difference, where you can really experience things. So we are currently talking about the eradicating racism, and there's a really interesting virtual reality app that allows you to experience the world through the eyes of a ethnic minority person. I think it's a black person in America, and this is a bus ride. And you put the VR goggles on, and you just experience, what would this like? How would I feel if I did this? And this, I think, they are immense opportunities we can bring with this sort of technology, as well as more fun customer engagement opportunities. One example I've talked about before is Burger King. Burger King developed an app, a bit like a Pokemon Go app on your phone. So you scan the environment and you basically find a billboard or an ad of a rival fast food company. So if you find a billboard or an ad from McDonald's, you can then take your smartphone, point your camera at it. The Burger King virtual reality app will recognize that this is a McDonald's app. You can then virtually burn the app, the display or the advertising, and as a reward, you will then get a free Whopper. And they can even use virtual reality or augmented reality to guide you to the next Burger King. So this is, for me, a really cool example as well. Hopefully that was useful. Those are my five key trends. So I talked about artificial intelligence, leveraging big data. I talked about, as my second trend, robotics, drones, and vehicle automation. My third trend was as a service and cloud. My fourth trend was 5G, so the fifth generation mobile internet. And my fifth trend are extended reality. So hopefully that's useful. As I said in my book, Tech Trends and Practice, I talk about 25 of those, many of these broken down. But for me, those five are the ones that I am talking talking about with my clients, with global companies all across the world, and those are the ones that seem to resonate with boards and decision makers really well with this. And actually, those are the technologies we need to invest in now to become an even more successful and an even more resilient organization. Very good. Let's have a final little look through the stream. If there are any specific questions you have, what I've done in the previous streams is I went back and looked at through the stream and tried to answer as many questions as I can. Sometimes it's easier if you message me directly. So if you message me on LinkedIn, or on Twitter, if you have any specific questions that you would like to have an answer to. Yeah, lots of comments saying this was really interesting. I can relate to this. We've seen this at airports and aviation, absolutely. So Dubai Airport is a great example where they're now using augmented reality to guide people through the airport. We're using facial recognition, so they're trying to make completely the idea is that you simply walk into an airport without any security checks because technology will do the job for you. Erika, danke and tschüss from Germany. Tschüss zurück. Very good. Thank you so much for all your great comments. What will happen to this stream is that this will be on my YouTube channel from tomorrow too. So if you ever wanted to re-watch any of them, I've done 5 previous live streams on all the 25 technology trends in my book. So if you're interested in this, head to my YouTube channel, and there I have a playlist of all those 5 that you can re-watch. Fantastic. Thank you very much. There's one more comment here. Mental health. I think this is a really good issue. So will this cause mental issues? Kevin is asking this, and I think mental health has never been more important than it is now. There's huge levels of anxiety, and what I'm currently working on is more articles and content on virtual reality and healthcare. And this just reminded me of a really good example where you can now use virtual reality to calm you down, to face up some of your anxieties, to learn how to cope with this. If you think about this, if you are scared of going out in public, you can try this in virtual reality and see how this makes you feel. And what is also interesting is that there are now a number of mental health applications out there. And some of the research I found really interesting, because what the research was telling us is that that people sometimes are more open to discussing mental health problems with an avatar rather than a real person. So this is, for me, an interesting new development. So it will be interesting to see if we see more mental health applications come out in the future that combine some of those things, that combine artificial intelligence and extended reality to offer services to that many of the healthcare services currently can't deliver because they're simply overstretched or too expensive. Perfect. Thank you so much. As I said, I will be back with another live stream next week. We'll have a super exciting panel. I will share all the details with you from Sunday in my newsletter. If you are not part of that, if you simply head to my website at bernardmar.com, you will be asked to join my newsletter, and if you're part of this, you will learn about all my future live streams, but also all the other content that I'm publishing and writing about. So thank you very much. Stay safe, have a lovely day, and I will see you soon. Thank you.